So Donald Trump is about to sign an executive order to end mail-in voting, voting machines, and also to require voter ID in all 50 states. And a lot of people are up in arms screaming this is unconstitutional, which it absolutely is. Voting is up to the states. But the point of the executive order is not to unilaterally change these laws. That is not the point of the executive order. If we've learned anything from Donald Trump's style of governing, if that's what you call it, it's that this executive order is going to be the catalyst to start a fight, to start the discussion. Specifically in red states where they hold the trifecta, where Republicans hold the trifecta, where they control all of the branches of government within that state. The states where they can actually make these changes. And we have seen historically that these states, like Texas, will do anything Donald Trump asks them to do. 257 congressional seats exist within states where Republicans hold the governing trifecta, if you will. So the whole point of this is to create a fight. The whole point of this is to convince his base and Republican voters that mail-in voting is evil, that it is the cause of fraud, and that this is the only way for us to have safe and secure elections in the United States. This is not about Donald Trump changing the law unilaterally. This is about starting a fight so he can get his minions in these red states to do it for him. Republicans know that historically, more Democrats vote by mail than Republicans. This has been the case historically, and that gap narrowed somewhat in 2024, but is likely to not be the case in 2026 and 2028. So targeting mail-in voting for Republicans is just an opportunity to target Democrats and make it harder for them to vote. Now, the problem with this whole scheme is that I believe, anyway, that Democrats are going to show up like gangbusters in 2026. I think they have seen enough and are actually going to show up. And I say that with some hesitation because historically Democrats are not great at showing up to vote. The fact of the matter is, if Democrats just bothered to show up, they would win all the time. But they don't. So they don't. I think Democrats will show up big time in 2026. And in addition to that, based on polling, what we're seeing from Republicans themselves, I think there's a good chance that a lot of Republicans don't show up to vote. I think a lot of Republicans have seen enough too. I think they have absolutely seen enough too. I think they have seen their members of Congress that represent them in their states kowtow to Donald Trump, be subservient to Donald Trump, do whatever Donald Trump wants. I don't think they like it. I know they don't like it. They have told us repeatedly they don't like it. And while, of course, the MAGA base will show up, there is an enormous amount of Republicans and an even larger amount of independents that will either not show up or, especially with independents, just vote for Democrats. I suspect there will be a lot of change in Congress after 2026. So this whole executive order is more of a political strategy than an attempt at re-legislating something. This is how Donald Trump does stuff. And let's not set aside the fact that there's a lot of people in this country who don't understand how anything works. I don't know why, but they don't. And there's a lot of people in this country that will just think this is the law now because Donald Trump wrote it down on an executive order. They will believe it, no matter what you tell them. Because we live in the age of idiocracy. Literally. Now, there are going to be exemptions for the mail-in voting. He's decided not to include the military in that are overseas, and the very ill, which is sort of a broad term. And in addition to that, paper ballots only for a party that demands results immediately. I don't see how paper ballots makes that happen. That's slower. And of course, voter ID for all states. We'll see how that goes. Now, of course, the Constitution states that, election rules are the responsibility of the states. Congress does control federal election law, but the states control how they carry out their elections. And people are saying this could disenfranchise millions of voters, especially vulnerable groups like seniors, students, people with disabilities, low-income voters. Mail-in voting and voter ID laws in many cases have been found to create unnecessary barriers despite offering important access. And let's be honest, a lot of Republicans don't support this idea either. And numerous studies have shown us that fraud from mail-in voting is virtually non-existent. I believe the number was 0.000006% over 20 years. So we'll see what happens, but let's go into this with the understanding of what exactly it is. It's not an attempt to unilaterally change the law. It's an attempt to start a fight and to get a bunch of Republicans thinking that only terrorists vote by mail. That is probably going to be a line you're going to hear. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Really appreciate all my new followers and subscribers, and I hope you guys have a great Labor Day weekend. Thanks.